최근 중국 해병대에 대한 충격적인 폭로가 나왔습니다. 실제 중국 해병대의 전력이 충격적으로 약하고 장비와 훈련이 부족하다며 알려진 것과 달리 형편없다는 것이었습니다. 사실 그동안 중국 해병대는 중국의 다른 군대와 달리 소수의 병력으로 편성될 만큼 주요 전력으로 여겨지지 않았습니다. 1957년 중국이 대만 침공 계획을 폐기하면서 해체되기까지 했는데 1980년에야 재창설됐습니다. 그리고 2000년대 들어 이전까지 해병대가 필요 없다고 말하던 중국은 남중국해를 둘러싼 야육을 가지고 대만까지 탐을 내면서 해병대는 필수 전력이 되어버렸습니다. 지난 2018년 공개된 미 국방전략서에서 미국이 중국을 향후 미국을 겨냥한 대등한 경쟁자로 본 이유 중 하나는 중국 해군의 해병대 증강이었습니다. 중국 해병대가 세계에서 미 해병대만이 하는 해외 상륙작전은 물론 원정작전과 원정기지를 확보하고 있으며 대부분 해병대가 기동성을 위해 작아지고 있으나 중국 해병대만은 커지고 있기 때문이었습니다. 한국의 입장에서도 중국의 해병대를 간과할 수 없는 게 한반도 유사시 중국 해병대가 우리 영토로 상륙하는 것을 볼 수도 있기 때문이었습니다. 실제로 지난 2018년 중국 해병대가 한반도 유사 상황 발생 시를 가정한 대규모 상륙훈련을 실시했습니다. 중국 해병대는 한반도 유사시를 가정하고 산둥반도 지역의 여러 항구를 해상 우수 및 장비 적재, 기동 상륙훈련을 실시했습니다. 영하 10도가량의 극한 기후 속에서 상륙부대는 장비 적재, 교차 이동, 방어 공습, 해상 구조 등 15개 항목의 훈련을 실시했는데 한반도 전쟁 상황을 가정한 상륙 및 해상 운수 훈련은 처음이었습니다. 중국 해병대는 해군 육전대라는 명칭으로 불리고 있으며 세계 5위의 병력을 보유하고 있었습니다. 2010년 5개 연대 6천여 명 수준에서 남중국해 마찰을 계기로 2개 여단 규모 2만 명으로 급속 성장했습니다. 이에 비해 한국 해병대는 미 해병대 다음으로 많은 숫자인 2만 9천 명을 보유해 그 어떤 나라보다 강하다고 평가받았습니다. 한 군사 전문 블로그에 의하면 전력은 세계 해병대 시절할 수 있는 영국 로얄마린과 동급으로 여길 수 있다고 했습니다. 그런데 이제 2위는 중국이 되었습니다. 시진핑은 2015년 중국군 30만 감축 선언하면서 반면 해병대는 400% 증강하겠다고 선언했습니다. 중국은 육군을 줄이면서 대신 해병대를 증강시키겠다며 앞으로 10만 명까지 늘리겠다고 했습니다. 2023년 기준 5만 2천 명까지 늘어났습니다. 중국은 해병대 전력을 증강시켜 남중국해와 분쟁이 있는 섬들을 점령하고 대만 침공에 성공하며 심지어 한반도 유사시 상륙작전을 펴서 한반도 일부를 가지겠다는 전략까지 가지고 있습니다. 그런데 최근 한 유튜브 채널에서 중국 해병대에 실체라면서 중국 해병대를 까발리는 영상을 올려 화제가 되었습니다.
As 2025 begins, tensions remain high from the Taiwan Strait to the South China Sea. The Chinese Communist Party's Air Force and Navy have been conducting so-called patrols and exercises. During the Chinese New Year holiday on February 2nd, China's Ministry of National Defense released a music video featuring various main battle equipment. Among them was the CCP's Marine Corps, which calls itself the troops within the troops and has remained relatively mysterious. After sending 32 personnel to an international military exercise in Brazil in the latter half of last year, the CCP Marine Corps made a high-profile appearance at the Zhuhai Air Show at the end of the year. Official media widely reported on it, but details about this military force remain limited. During China's military restructuring, pro-Beijing military commentators claimed the Marine Corps' primary mission was targeting Taiwan, with secondary objectives involving areas like the Spratly Islands and the Diaoyu Islands. However, retired U.S. Navy Captain Sam J. Tancredi told Voice of America that China's recent focus on amphibious landings and large attack ships extends beyond Taiwan. He noted that the CCP's Marine Corps could also be used to seize islands in the South China Sea that the Philippines traditionally claims sovereignty over. If the U.S. intervenes, China's Marine Corps could be deployed to capture American overseas bases. Military analyst Shen Zhou, however, believes the CCP Marine Corps currently lacks the combat capability needed for such operations. Even an invasion of Taiwan would pose significant challenges. First, he argues that the force is too small. After its reorganization, the CCP Marine Corps consisted of 6 brigades with about 40,000 troops spread across 3 different theater commands. The Eastern Theater Command has 2 Marine Corps brigades. The 3rd Brigade is stationed stationed in Xinjiang, Fujian, near Kinmen, suggesting readiness for an assault on the island. The 4th Brigade is based in Jieyang, Guangdong, near Shantou, which could indicate preparations for an attack on southern Taiwan, including Tainan and Kaohsiung. The Southern Theater Command also has 2 Marine Corps brigades, both stationed in Zhanjiang, Guangdong, close to Hainan Island but farther from Taiwan. These brigades seem more focused on defending Hainan in case of a counterattack by U.S. or Allied forces. They're also likely tasked with securing islands in the South China Sea and potentially confronting Vietnam. About half of the CCP's amphibious landing ships are based in Zhanjiang, suggesting long-term plans that could include operations in Southeast Asia. He also points out that the CCP has positioned 1 Marine Corps brigade and 2 amphibious combined arms brigades near Kinmen, indicating plans for an assault. However, these 3 brigades, totaling about 1,800 troops, may not be enough to quickly seize Kinmen. Their main role would likely to be establish a beachhead. If they lose half their forces during the landing, the remaining 9,000 troops would struggle to hold the position. The CCP's ability to invade Taiwan is also limited by its amphibious assault vehicles. The Marine Corps and Amphibious Combined Arms Brigades primarily use the ZBD-05 amphibious infantry fighting vehicle, which has a 3-person crew and can carry 8 soldiers. To enhance firepower, the Marine Corps also uses the ZDT-05 amphibious assault vehicle, which looks similar but is equipped with a 105mm cannon for close-range shore bombardment. This variant has a 4-person crew and cannot carry additional troops. Shenzhou notes that both vehicles travel at about 25 kilometers per hour in water and weigh 26 tons, but their armor is thin and vulnerable to standard artillery and anti-tank missiles. Another vehicle in service is the ZBL-08 or ZTL-11 wheeled armor personnel carrier, which has crew of 2 to 3 and can transport 7 to 10 soldiers. However, its water speed is much slower, around 13 kilometers per hour, making it difficult to keep up with the tracked amphibious vehicles. Its armor is even weaker. Shenzhou believes that because the CCP's Navy and Air Force lack sufficient fire support for amphibious landings, the Marine Corps must rely on its own firepower for shore assaults. This makes invasion planning more complicated and could slow down landing operations. The Marine Corps relies heavily on amphibious vehicles armed with 150mm cannons. Shenzhou argues that these cannons lack firepower, have limited range, and weak armor protection. They would face continuous attacks from Taiwan's 155mm artillery, tank cannons, anti-tank missiles, and helicopters, making them highly vulnerable to being destroyed in the water. Even those that make it to shore would struggle against Taiwan's tanks and anti-armor weapons, while lighter armored units following behind would have even lower survival chances. The CCP also has a limited number of Type 15 light tanks and self-propelled artillery. However, these vehicles cannot operate in water and would have to be transported by ship after a beachhead is secured. Even then, the Type 15's armor is weak, making it ineffective against Taiwan's tanks. Each of the CCP's military group units includes an aviation brigade equipped with attack and utility helicopters. However, Russia has suffered heavy losses of attack helicopters in Ukraine, particularly against shoulder-fired Stinger missiles. Taiwan has long possessed US-made Stinger missiles and close-in air defense cannons, making it difficult for the CCP's helicopters to operate effectively in an invasion scenario. The most common attack helicopter in the CCP Army is the Z-10, with over 400 units possibly in service. It copies both Russian and American designs, but only carries a 2-person crew, limiting its ability to transport additional soldiers. Another modified light attack helicopter, the Z-19, has similar limitations. The CCP Army's utility helicopters, including the Z-8 and Z-9, are based on French technology and can carry about 20 soldiers. The most recent addition is the Z-20, a Chinese version of the US Black Hawk helicopter. However, the various helicopters the CCP has copied are relatively outdated, slower, and prone to breakdowns. In October 2024, the CCP Marine Corps officially announced the first photo of the Z-20J, a new shipborne version of the Z-20, making its official entry into service. Shenzhou believes that whether for amphibious or tri-service landings, the CCP Marine Corps lacks enough personnel and equipment to support its operations. The organization and training are inadequate, and they lack relevant experience. The biggest challenge is the lack of sufficient sea and air support for the landings. Large landing ships like the Type 075, 076, and 071 are likely to be the first targets to be sunk, resulting in the Marine Corps' main force being lost at sea. In fact, the Marine Corps faces a broader issue that affects the entire CCP military. Then U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien warned the CCP against attempting to use force to invade Taiwan, stressing that amphibious operations are extremely difficult. Military commentator Xu Ke points out that the U.S. has the most extensive experience in amphibious landings, while the CCP lacks similar successful experiences. The U.S. carried out the largest amphibious assault in history, the Normandy landings during World War II, and it also faced numerous complex and brutal amphibious battles in the Pacific theater. Looking back at examples from the Pacific War, one can understand how difficult amphibious operations truly are. Therefore, the U.S. hopes the CCP will recognize the difficulty and back down. However, if the CCP takes risks, Taiwan could face hellish scenarios, with the CCP Marine Corps serving as its first casualties.
중국 해병대는 인력도 부족하지만 장비도 부실하기에 제대로 된 상륙작전을 하기 힘든 상태라고 말했습니다. 중국 해병대와 달리 한국 해병대는 1949년에 창설되어 무려 75주년이란 자랑스러운 역사를 가지고 있습니다. 한국 해병대는 용맹한 병사들과 함께 최고의 장비로 미 해병대에 이어서 세계 2위의 수준을 자랑하고 있습니다. 장비빨을 자랑하는 미 해병대보다도 실제로 엄청난 훈련 강도로 무장한 한국 해병대가 실력이 1위라고 하는 이들도 있습니다. 유일하게 미 해병에서 인정하는 해병대가 한국의 해병대라고 했습니다. 최근에 대한민국 해군 해병대 코브라 골드 훈련전대가 다국적 연합훈련인 2025년 코브라 골드 훈련에 참가하기 위해 진해군항에서 출항했습니다. 2월 25일부터 3월 7일까지 태우에서 진행되는 다국적 연합훈련에 참가하기 위해서였습니다. 한국은 해병대뿐만 아니라 UDT를 비롯한 해군 특수부대 등 세계적인 전력을 자랑하고 있습니다. 지난해 한국 해군 특수부대의 칼훈련이라는 제목 영상이 무려 190만의 조회수를 기록하며 엄청난 인기를 끈 바 있습니다. 이 영상을 본 한 해의 네티즌은 세상에는 당신들을 상대하고 싶어하는 특수부대원이 없을 것입니다 라고 말했습니다. 그런데 한 해의 네티즌은 이 한국 특수부대원들을 유심히 보고는 이렇게 말했습니다. 그들은 얼굴을 가린다. 왜냐하면 집에 들어가면 실제로는 K-팝 스타이기 때문이다. 이상 쓸모왕이었습니다.